the morning the wind tore half the roof off the old shed. No one noticed except the man standing in the mud with a hammer that had lost its shine and a heart that had learned how to keep going even when it felt too tired to beat. If you've ever wondered how one small choice can quietly change an entire life, stay with this story until the very end. And if stories about kindness, struggle, and unexpected miracles touch your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because what happens here might restore your faith in people. Ethan Cole had been a single father for 4 years, ever since his wife passed away suddenly, leaving him with a 7-year-old son named Noah and a silence in the house that never quite went away. Life had become a careful balance of bills, school lunches, second-hand clothes, and nights where Ethan lay awake doing math in his head, wondering how far the next paycheck could stretch. He worked odd construction jobs when he could find them, patched roofs, fixed fences, carried lumber until his shoulders burned, and came home every night pretending he wasn't exhausted so Noah wouldn't worry. To Noah, his dad was the strongest man in the world. To the world, Ethan was just another struggling single dad trying not to fall behind. That morning, Ethan had driven out to the edge of town chasing a small cash job repairing a farmer's shed that had been damaged in a storm. The pay wasn't much, but it was honest, and it meant groceries for the week. The property looked worn from the road, leaning fence posts, tall grass swaying like it hadn't been cut in years, and an old wooden shed with boards peeling like tired skin. It didn't look like much, and Ethan assumed the owner was barely getting by, just like him. When he stepped out of his truck, boots sinking into the soft earth, he noticed the quiet first. Not the peaceful kind, but the heavy kind, the kind that comes with loneliness. As he approached the shed, he heard footsteps behind him. Turning, he saw a woman in her early 40s, dressed simply in worn jeans, a flannel shirt, and muddy boots. Her hair was pulled back in a loose braid, and her face carried the kind of calm you only earn after surviving storms no one else sees. "You must be Ethan," she said gently. "I'm Clara." They shook hands, her grip firm, honest. She apologized for the condition of the shed, explaining the storm had been worse than expected. Ethan waved it off, telling her he'd seen worse, and got to work without another word. As he climbed onto the roof, hammering loose boards back into place, Clara watched silently from below, occasionally handing him nails or holding a ladder steady. There was something about her that felt familiar, like she understood the quiet language of people who work hard and don't complain. As the hours passed, Ethan's hands blistered and his back ached, but he didn't slow down. He kept thinking about Noah, about how his son had asked the night before if they could get ice cream just once this week. Ethan had smiled and said, "We'll see," knowing that sometimes "we'll see" was all he could offer. Every nail he drove into the wood felt like a promise to keep going, to not give up, to fix what he could. At one point, a beam cracked under his weight, and Ethan barely caught himself before falling. Clara gasped, rushing forward, her face pale with fear. Ethan laughed it off, though his heart was racing, and told her he'd be more careful. She looked at him for a long moment, then quietly asked, "Why do you work so hard, even when it's risky?" Ethan paused, wiped sweat from his brow, and said simply, "Because someone's counting on me." That answer seemed to hit Clara deeper than he expected. She nodded slowly, her eyes glistening, and turned away before he could notice. They took a short break around midday, sitting on overturned crates, sharing sandwiches Clara had packed. She apologized again for not offering more, but Ethan told her it was perfect. Conversation came easily then. Ethan spoke about Noah, how he loved dinosaurs, how he tried to be brave like his dad, how he still slept with the light on. Clara listened closely, asking questions, smiling softly. She shared little about herself, only mentioning that she'd inherited the land years ago and had been trying to manage it on her own. Ethan didn't think much of that. Inherited land could mean anything, and the place certainly didn't look valuable. He returned to work, staying later than planned because he noticed more damage than originally expected. Boards were rotting, supports were weak, and the shed wouldn't last another season without serious care. Clara told him he could leave it, that it was good enough, but Ethan shook his head. "If I'm fixing something," he said, I want it to last. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of gold and fire, Ethan finished the final repairs. The shed stood stronger now, not perfect, but sturdy. He climbed down slowly, every muscle screaming, and packed up his tools. Clara thanked him quietly, then disappeared into the farmhouse for a moment. When she returned, she held an envelope. "This is for you," she said. Ethan opened it and froze. Inside was far more money than they had agreed on, as enough to cover rent, groceries, and maybe even that ice cream Noah wanted. "There must be a mistake," Ethan said quickly. "This is too much." Clara shook her head. "It's exactly right." Seeing the confusion on his face, she took a deep breath and finally spoke the truth she hadn't shared earlier. The land around them, stretching beyond the hills and fields he hadn't even noticed, all belonged to her. Thousands of acres of farmland. She wasn't struggling. She was wealthy beyond what most people could imagine. But after years of loss and betrayal, she had chosen a simple life, managing her land quietly, hiring people who treated the worker and the people with respect. "I've had contractors come here who cut corners, overcharge, or treat me like I don't know anything," she said softly. "You didn't. You worked like this place mattered, like I mattered." Ethan didn't know what to say. His hands trembled as he closed the envelope, emotions flooding in: relief, disbelief, gratitude, and something deeper he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Clara wasn't finished. She told him she needed someone reliable to oversee repairs across her properties, someone she could trust. The job would be steady, well-paying, flexible enough for him to be there for his son. She offered it not out of pity, but respect. Ethan went home that night and hugged Noah tighter than ever before. When Noah asked why his dad looked like he might cry, Ethan just smiled and said, "Because sometimes, buddy, good things happen when you least expect them." Months passed, and life slowly changed. Bills no longer felt like monsters waiting in the dark. Noah laughed more. Ethan slept better, and every time he drove past that old shed, now standing strong against the wind, he remembered how close he'd come to giving up, and how one honest day's work had quietly opened a door he never knew existed. If this story reminded you that kindness still matters, that hard work is seen even when it feels invisible, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because sometimes, the biggest miracles don't come with noise or warning. They arrive quietly, disguised as ordinary days, waiting for someone brave enough to keep going until the very end.